Hey guys, what you see before you is what common calibers that I store. This is a question I get a lot. Several times a week I get some concerned prepper asking what caliber should I store. And it's an interesting idea simply because I choked down my firearm supply down to certain calibers years ago, before prepping was even a household name. Certainly I don't have prepper in my title. I've been doing this sort of preparedness stuff for years. And years ago, when space and money got tight, I decided to basically pull down all my what I would consider exotic calibers that I had in handguns that I didn't store a lot of because they were either expensive to shoot or hard to get, and therefore I didn't go out and shoot those. And so what's the point in having them if you don't go out and shoot and aren't proficient in those weapons? And so that was the thought process I came up years ago with. Certainly none of this is mind-blowing. You're not going to find any groundbreaking ideas in this video. But the whole idea of the prepping is what if you're going to call this video the calibers for the shit hits the fan, or calibers for the apocalypse, or calibers for prepping, how about just calibers that are easy to find and cheap to shoot? That's the video you should be making. I've gotten requested this. I even got tagged once. I didn't make this video. It has become a very hot topic of late, and I've received more emails, so that's the reason we're doing this video today. In the rifle, we have the 223 5.56. I chose years ago to go with an AR-15. I got nothing against AKs. I absolutely love AK-47s. I store some of it, but not in the abundance that I do the 5.56. I don't go shoot AKs all the time. I primarily use the AR-15 platform. I chose that for its commonality because in the last 10-15 years, it has become, one of the most household, rifles to buy is some sort of AR-15. And whether they're military fanboys or not, they're going to be a very common rifle cartridge that is going to be stored with your neighborhoods, with neighbors, friends, things like that, over the AK-47. I'm not going to get into the ballistics and all that stuff. This is cheap to shoot within reason, and it's going to be extremely common with the average household. 12 gauge, another one. Whether it's just used for hunting or anything else, 12 gauge is still one of the most mass-produced shotgun cartridges out there. And that was my reason for going with the 12 gauge. It's cheap to shoot. It does make a great home defense. Everyone probably has one hiding behind their front door as sort of I'm going to leave my wife at home and she'll need the shotgun because she doesn't even have to point the thing, which is absolutely incorrect. But that is the theory behind a lot of this. Whether it's misguided theory or not, 12 gauge is still extremely prevalent. In handgun cartridge, I chose the 9mm. 9mm is still one of the most widely produced cartridges in the world, and more important for me, they are cheap to shoot. There's this misconception of that 1,000 rounds is a lot of ammo. It really isn't, and you'll hear it a lot. Oh my God, he's buying 1,000 rounds. Like, oh, that seems like such a lot to buy. And and it was kind of the same, I believe, with some of the family and friends that I was bringing out to shoot. And they quickly realized once you go out for a plinking afternoon of fun shooting that you can go through 200-300 rounds easy, in an afternoon. So that 1,000 rounds doesn't seem like quite as much. That 1,000 rounds should maybe last you a year if you're getting out on a regular basis to shoot. Whether you're concealed or not, you need to be proficient in the firearms that you store. And that was my main reason for choosing the 9mm. 9mm is still a very effective cartridge. I'm not going to get into the ballistics of all this kind of stuff, like I said, with the rifle cartridge. Don't listen to your gun guy on the corner who doesn't know a damn thing about firearms, even though it's his job to sell them, because he's regurgitating the same crap that we all hear on the internet. And, he was shot 5 times with 9mm, and he kept running, and then he did a tap dance on the table before he left. And they're not going to do anything. You need a man stopper. And then you get into the guys that are like, oh, it's the bear caliber. You're going to need that backwoods bear caliber. That 9mm or that 45 is not going to do anything against a bear. Well, who the hell's out shooting bears? The 40 caliber is still one of my favorite ones. It's like, oh, so all the law enforcement in my neighborhood is, in my town is using 40 caliber. And if you guys do your research on why the FBI and the federal law enforcement went to 40 cal. It's an interesting read. Certainly wasn't necessarily all ballistics. It was a lot of politics in there, and so because everyone wanted to be a fanboy of the federal government, a lot of local places started carrying the 40 cal. I'll put the link down below of the Zombie Tactics. He did a fantastic video on that whole subject, and really boils down to the guys like, oh, it's the local law enforcement, they carry 40 cal, I wanted to have a 40 cal. Because, if shit hits the fan, I'm going down there and I'm taking the 40 cal I need. I'll always have extra because the local cops use it. Or, it's the dead cop in the street, I'll take his extra ammo. And then, it's just this unrealistic, just ridiculous statements that these people start making. And half of those guys are going to work at your local gun shops, and it just drives me bats. I mean, it really does. The only one argument that I will give against that is I have a good friend who, he purchased his Ruger in 40, and it does totally make sense for him to have that 40, and it's because his neighbor to one side and behind him are both local PD. A neighbor very close by is a next town over PD, and a police officer, and he has a sheriff in kind of the same little nook area. And it totally makes sense for him to have the 40 caliber because his friends, which happen to be police officers, also are using the 40 caliber. And in that sort of local community, neighborhood, situation, yeah, it would make sense to have a local caliber. You would treat it anyway if you've got a prepping community and you all choose 40 calibers for whatever reason. I certainly don't want to pay the price to go shoot 40 calibers all the time, so I choose 9. I also choose the Magtex. I think they shoot extremely well. I bought them years ago because they were cheap for plinking. Never had a single issue with them, with the cartridge itself. And so I continue to buy them. I really do like the Magtex. I think for the price, they're outstanding. And last but not least is the 22 LR. And it simply is, hands down, arguments aside of the Chinese invasion, 22 long rifle is the preferred survival cartridge of anyone you ask. There's no reason not to carry 1,000 rounds of it in your bug out bags. I'm not going to be carrying around 6,000 rounds when bugging out. It's just silly. Hey, Red Dawn, Chinese invasion, it's a great idea. In that case, maybe I probably won't be shooting 22 long rifle at these guys, but for getting game, for reasonable self-defense in a certain situation, and Mega Winfrey made a great comment the other day that in his video. He was, if you have 1,000 rounds and you fire all of it, and which means that in this firefight you have exchanged over 1,000 rounds of your ammo, which means they probably shot 1,000 rounds at you, and you still survived. Good for you. So I don't know. Be proficient in your firearms. Store what you feel is possible in your budget to do. They certainly don't go bad. You can buy ammo and it'll keep for years. In fact, it'll probably be worth more down the road. So this is me, a beast, signing off. It's a subject that hasn't been covered a million times by other videos, but nothing groundbreaking here. Is the calibers I choose to store. Whether it's just for cheap, availability, shit hits the fan, Red Dawn, whatever you want to call it. This is me signing off. Thanks, guys.